Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I very much hope that this video finds you well and in very good spirits wherever you are in the world. And today I'd like to continue on with the viewer questions that you so very kindly submitted to this channel a few months back. And so I'm working my way through as many as possible. They are all wonderful, and they are so illuminative and filled with great insight and attention to detail, and the enthusiasm is boundless, which is absolutely wonderful. And kudos to you, my dear friends, for these. Thank you so much. Really, thank you so much. And so with that, let us go to the next question, or set of questions, I should say, because this is from Stealthborn, our dear friend Stealthborn. And Stealthborn here says, got 3 interesting questions. Number 1, having been going through the pioneers of African American cinema, do you plan to cover pioneers, first women filmmakers at some point down the line? Number 2, will you be covering Studio Ghibli films at some point? Number 3, will you ever do a comparison between The Lion King and Kimba the White Lion, Jungle Emperor? And so the former you describe with parenthetical as Disney, and the latter you describe in parenthetical as Tezuka Osamu. Okay, so Stealthborn, thank you so much for these questions. Really, thank you so much, my friend. And so as for the, maybe we can go in reverse order, if that's okay. So starting with your third question. So yes, this is a very interesting question. I must admit, I was never necessarily making a consideration of it per se, but there's always there are always possibilities, and so. But although I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in terms of those particular works, but it might be a possibility at some point. But again, I'm not sure. But thank you very much for the suggestion. Very much, it's a very interesting suggestion indeed. And as for your second question, so at the moment I don't know if I would be covering any Ghibli films. And actually, that takes me to another point, a related point, which is another failing of my channel, which is I would love to talk more about anime, but unfortunately, it's not. It hasn't been the case so far. Now, I wouldn't call myself the biggest anime expert in the world. I haven't seen every anime that's in existence, and so my discussions would be very limited in terms of scope and context. But within that limited scope and context, there are a number of works that I would very much love to talk about one of these days. And so I've mentioned it just as an example, and because of the recent film release, Neon Genesis Evangelion. I think this is one of the key series in my, say, anime loving life, as it were. And so it has this type of crescendo effect upon me. And so one of these days, I would love just to sit down and go through the episodes, and then maybe the rebuild as well. But yes, we'd have to, given recent circumstances of cinema and releases, but that is one dream project that I've had. And then speaking of Ghibli, I think Ghibli films are so magical and important. I think I was also very fortunate that before the pandemic hit here in Japan, in terms of the initial events back early in 2020. Before that happened, my family and I were able to make a sort of family trip. It was nearby where we live, so it was we were able to go and come back within the day. But we went to the Studio Ghibli Museum. It was my first time going there, and we had to get a reservation ticket, which is I think not so easy, but we managed it, and so we had our reserved time and date. So it was an opportunity for me to go to the Studio Ghibli Museum, and it was awesome. It was really awesome. I was, it was great. It was, fantastic. Absolutely a beautiful, beautiful time. So anyone who is a fan of the Ghibli series or the Ghibli art, I think, if you ever have the opportunity to go to that museum, I strongly recommend it. You will not be disappointed. It is fantastic, and I can say that Ghibli films are they're part of the almost the everyday life, as it were, in Japan. I think. I mean, I haven't necessarily gathered all the specific data or statistics necessarily, but based on my own maybe intuitive sense, and based on the people that I encounter, I don't think I've met anyone in Japan who doesn't know a Ghibli film, who doesn't know what Ghibli is. It's so famous. It's everywhere, and everyone has their own particular favorite movie, of course, Ghibli film. So it becomes a very excellent way, I think, to find common ground and to maybe have a nice conversation starter. What's your favorite Ghibli movie? And so, everyone in my family, I think, has their own favorite. Maybe, and then my wife and my kids, they maybe have their own favorites. I would say for me, it tends to change, but I think I'm beginning. Well, not beginning. I've always loved. In English, it's called Kiki's Delivery Service. In Japanese, it's called Majo no Takyubin, and I've always loved that. I found that to be such a clever and tender work, very, very tender. And when I was a kid growing up, I saw it, and I would usually see it, or not usually, I'd always watch it through the vantage point of the children who were in that. Of course, Kiki being the main character. I know, but of course, as we know, she meets a number of other people along the way. It would always be a story told from her perspective and her vantage point. So I would associate my own engagement through her vantage point and her perspective. But now, growing up and becoming, maybe having my own family as well, I see myself in the father figure position. And so when I look at that and I think to myself, for instance, my daughter now is nearly the age that Kiki is in the film. And now I think about that particular thing, and it's maybe a little bit emotional, but it's interesting how perspectives can change in terms of the passage of time. And so there's a particular scene at the start of the film between father and daughter, so in any event, it's such a lovely moment. And so, I think that's an example, I think, of the magic of the Ghibli universe, is that there's this way that there's those little things that remind us of that, of those everyday experiences that we tend to have, while at the same time they're able to show us through these extraordinary circumstances of story and plot and visual image and world building, both the extraordinary and the so beautifully ordinary all at once. And so I think that's one of the great joys of a Ghibli movie. And so, and then to your first question about, so thank you very much. So yes, you have been so great in watching the video discussions that I've been doing with regard to those works that are included in the very great set, which is called Pioneers of African American Cinema. And as of the time of this video, we are now in the midst of the sound era films that are included in that set from the extraordinary filmmaker and artist Oscar Michaud. And so we're in disc 4 right now. So it's a really those films are very very powerful, and they have this depth to them. That is, I mean, the work that was done with by Jacqueline Stewart and Charles Musser and others with that set is just it's amazing, really amazing. So yes, of course, I'm not sure exactly what I would try to do in terms of what will come afterwards, but yes, these the set that you mentioned also it's a very fascinating one, and I think it's a great opportunity to really engage with those works. Again, this is it's wonderful to have these available in these presentations like this, and so but we shall see what's possible. I'd like to do as many things as possible here. It's just a matter of being able to sit down and do them, I suppose, which is I would love the opportunity, but we shall see. But that's another great suggestion, Stealthborn, so thank you very much for that. But I will certainly try my very best. I can't promise to do absolutely everything, which is another failing of mine, but I will do my very best, and I will try to talk about as many things as I can. But Stealthborn, thanks to you and your energy and passion and enthusiasm, and that of many other people here, you keep me inspired, and so you keep me wanting to move forward, as it were, and make more discussions here. So thank you very much for continuing to be a type of inspiration, not a real, sincere, genuine, and strong source of inspiration for me and for many others. I really appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. So thank you so much for the questions, and until we meet again, please be happy and healthy and well, and please keep on watching a lot of great movies. Thank you so much, as always, for your time. I very, very much appreciate it. Stay strong, stay safe, and cheers.